Hello, welcome to another episode of StadiumCast. You may know me as Martijn or Inadequance.
And I am Lundberger, also known as Amanda. And Martijn, we were just in Yokohama. I just saw you, like, pretty much last week.
It's true. It's true. I've played on the stream there. It was really cool. Like I got a really cool ninth place. I didn't want to get number one anyway. Speaking of number one, we have the number one on today's podcast. We have ItsAXN. Welcome in, Axon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually doing really good because we were just talking right before this started, and you mentioned, and this is the first time Martijn has heard it, that I'm your mother's favorite caster. So.
Yeah. She watches all the European streams. We both do. We stay up way too late every night. They start at like 2 a.m. and we watch the whole thing. But yeah, she loves the European casters, and Lundberger, you're her favorite.
That is awesome to hear. But speaking of favorites, like, do you think you were favorited to win Worlds? For those of you who don't know, yes, ItsAXN won the World Championship for Pokemon Go, our second ever World Champion going in. You were one of the competitors last year. You made it pretty far. Did you think you were going to win it?
I had that clip after Portland that was like, I've won a regional, I've won an international, now Worlds is the last thing on my list. I said that like completely jokingly. I did not expect that to happen. But, obviously I put the effort into like prepare for Worlds and to, try my best. I think I had as good a shot as any like the real favorites. I think Wadaj was another one that, he had a pretty impressive run, like up until Worlds. Obviously top three is also still super impressive. But he won Hartford, NAIC, and then the Silph World Championship. So I'd say he's probably favored a little more than me. But yeah, I think a lot of people thought I'd at least do pretty okay at Worlds. I don't think a lot of them had me as the champion, though.
Honestly, though, even though I must say that, like yourself and Wadaj have very impressive records, I don't think that like Worlds had a true favorite, right? Because there were so many good people. I want to go a little bit.
There's so many people. I've said this a lot, just to people in person, where I think there's a lot of people kind of like at the same level, right at the top. It would take a lot for someone to like truly be like the greatest player of all time, right? Like I don't think, like even winning Worlds and stuff, I don't think I'm the best player in the world right now. I think I'm just, I had a very good run. But I think a lot of people, if they were on top of their game, would have had just as good a shot.
Sometimes it is about having a bit of a lucky day, but I mean, if that's the case, you would have a lot of them because you win a lot. So sometimes I do believe it takes one day, like just like with your legend run. Sometimes you just gain 300 elo in a day, and boom, that's it, I guess. Yeah. Axon, I want to go to a little bit of the start of where the heck you even came from, because like before playing Pokemon, I had no clue who you were. With all due respect, how did you like get into PvP in the first place?
The reason I started out playing PvP in the first place is actually kind of like vain. I just wanted the pose from season 1, and I wanted to flex on all my locals and stuff and show it off in gyms and stuff. And so I just started there. In preseason and stuff, I started to learn. I got Legend season 1, the first season we ever played or ever had, really. And I've just been a big GBL player basically the whole time. And I never did Silph tournaments or factions up until basically when Play Pokemon really started. So unless you knew me from the leaderboards and stuff, or maybe like saw me in GBLA once or twice before then, I was just like completely off the map.
And where, in your opinion, do you think that people actually started recognizing your name? Was it when you won NAIC, or do you think it was like, hey guys, no, I've been around before this, you just haven't been paying attention?
I guess it depends on who you ask. There's a lot of the leaderboarders and stuff who like they knew of ItsAXN and they've played against me a lot. They've seen me on the leaderboards, but obviously no one really knew what I looked like, who I was. I wasn't in a lot of Discords or anything either. So I wasn't talking to a lot of the community and stuff. So I think NAIC was probably where most of the community really started to see who I was, and that makes sense. Big tournament win like that, it's kind of hard not to be noticed there.
That included me. Yes, I definitely got to know you there.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
Like
gonna
around
say
three.
like players like Axon and Woodage, I never played them, but actually we did play at NAIC. Can you tell us a little bit about your NAIC run? I think that was still in the Walrein meta, right? You were quite
Oh
good at
yeah,
the bait game, I believe.
that was fun times back then. My NAIC team, I actually have them on my table here with me. I don't know if you can see them
Oh
all in
yeah.
frame,
Oh, and
but I have
you
like
have a rank
Swampert.
1 Shadow Needle Queen, right?
Yeah, my Needle Queen,
Yeah,
rank 1 Shadow Needle Queen, that carried
Nice.
me
I
through like
remember.
the first like couple tournaments. I loved that thing. Medicham, that thing's come with me every single tournament I've ever played in. If they touch it this next season, I'm not going to be too happy because I don't know what I'm going to do without it. I also have Lickitung, Sableye, and Walrein that was on my NAIC team. All just like pretty solid picks now, but Walrein obviously since the nerf, like I tried to make it work a little bit at Salt Lake and Arlington, and it worked in a way, but it's definitely not as good as it used to be.
Were you worried at all, like this season? I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure, right? Because you did qualify the previous season, and then I think a lot of players felt that pressure to be able to compete again, to be able to get to that level, and also since play Pokemon and Pokemon Go last season was one of them where you could only go on if you won first or second, and then it cascaded down. How nerve-wracking was it going into these regional competitions? Or was it like, oh no, I know consistency is key, I know that I'm going to get there?
Well, I had a pretty good feeling, if I did, a couple tournaments out of like a couple chances, I would have been able to either get first or second. But going into Salt Lake right after Worlds, I think everyone knows that tournament was just kind of like off for a lot of people. I lost to Mormon Matt round 2, a player who just like started playing after a month of playing. Like I was in my head so much going into that tournament because I think a lot of people saw how few people were going to Salt Lake and they thought the bigger names were just gonna win it. And by then, I guess I was kind of a bigger name. I just came off of top 8 at Worlds and an NAIC win. So I was feeling a lot of pressure. I was like, if I lose on stream here to this guy that just started playing, this is going to look really bad. And I was just in my head the whole time about that. That's all I was thinking about. And, that wasn't a very good start to the season for me, I got to admit. But then Arlington came. I had a better run there. Day 1, I actually had some pretty hard opponents. I had to fight Wadaj day 1, too. I beat him, and then I had to fight Bibalicious, who beat me. Then I had to fight Jengles, who unfortunately I took out for like the second time before he got to day 2. And then unfortunately I lost day 2 at Arlington, but I did get 5th place, which was an improvement. Then, I finally got my breakthrough at Vancouver, where I got 2nd place. Portland, I got 1st place. And then NAIC, I got 65th place, and I don't like to talk about that. So, but then Worlds, I got 1st as well. So, I am consistent. I was pretty sure I would get my invite, but you can't go into any specific tournament and think, I'm going to win this. You can just say, I'm going to try my best.
I think Wadash has had a little bit of a similar position, right? He played about
Yeah.
8 or 9 tournaments before he actually qualified, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
He
think,
played a lot, and like his
yeah,
first couple, he kind of stumbled a little bit early on, where like he didn't get top cut maybe once or twice.
mm-hmm.
But then once he broke through, he got like 3rd, then like 2nd, or not 2nd, then he got 1st, and then 3rd at Worlds.
Is there some kind of experience that you bring with you, or like some thoughts that you might play out differently next time, like when you lose, when you barely don't make it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't ever been like that one win off, like the 3rd place finish, and I know if I were to ever get that, like obviously it doesn't quite work that way now. It's just like a point system. But now, like let's say you get 2nd place instead of like getting your invite like you would have last season. Now you still have to earn more points. I mean, that does kind of suck. I could imagine that like you'd feel if you just did something differently, you could have got that guaranteed invite already. But if you're a good player and you think you deserve to be at Worlds, you have to show up and you have to earn it.
Do you have any advice for people in that sense? Because you did say consistency is key, and I think you are like, I would say that in Europe it's like status Stan, and in the US it's you, that people always compare, that you're like, you guys are the most like on precision, on point players. Is that just innate skill, or is that something that you think people can learn if they have enough diligence?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I practice most of the time is really just playing GBL. And when I'm at these tournaments and stuff, like I know a lot of people like to do like a ton of scrims beforehand, and like I think in a way it's a mistake, like especially if you're scrimming the same person over and over again, because you'll instead of being scrimming for like the meta, you're scrimming against the player. GBL, you just get a lot of like general experience playing, and when you show up to these tournaments, you just when you lock in your Pokemon, you just play the battle. You don't need to really overthink what you're doing, especially day one, where your variety of opponents is going to be pretty big. You might have people who just started. You might have freaking like Wadaj round one. That would be terrible. But you just got to take it as it comes and just play the battles one at a time. Don't overthink it like I did at Salt Lake. At Worlds, actually, my first round opponent was Emmy Weedle. And so I was like, if you're going to be a champion, you kind of have to beat a champion. And you just take it one game at a time, no matter who you're fighting, and don't really overthink it. I think is the best way to be consistent.
I'm sorry, but since you already brought him up, we have to do it every single podcast. Martijn, who did you beat at EUIC?
I actually knocked out me Weedle. That was actually me. Like, people predicted he would win the EUIC, but I knocked him out. And then at Worlds, I even got like way further ahead of him in placement. So,
yeah,
I guess
partially thanks to me knocking him to the losers bracket.
It's true. I guess his days of bragging are over against me.
We just always have to give it crap because he beat Martijn at Stuttgart and ended up getting the whole thing there. Another fun fact about Emmy Weedle is that his mom was the first mother to tell me that I was her favorite caster.
So I get robbed now.
Yeah, it's been the big joke that I'm the favorite caster of 2 world champions' moms, not the world champions themselves. I got a niche. Yeah, I know. Yeah, man. I think he told me that I just needed to give her grandchildren, and then I would become her favorite too. And I was like, okay, seems like a pretty steep entry.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, Axon. I just looked again at your playmats behind you, and the one I noticed is top 8 at London. Is there like anything that like before you went into Worlds 2023, like things that you remembered from last year and that you would take into account for this World Championship? Like, I'm not saying your last year was bad. I think it was top 4, right? Last like 2022 Worlds.
I was actually 7th.
7th, still good.
Yeah, I think it was top 8. Yeah,
it was still really good, right? But is there anything you took from that tournament into this one?
Yeah, I think just like being on the big stage like once before really helped because I've been on stream a lot and I'm still not completely comfortable. I think maybe now I am, but like I think I was at least more comfortable than a lot of people because I had played on a stage that like I guess there's a difference between like a regional and an international and then the world stage. It's just so much different when you're there. It's like decorated it's just crazy. So just like not having the nerves as much, I think really helped from last year. And also, like when I was looking at my run last year, I just went 3-2. That's all I did. But since I had a round 1 bye, it was more like 4-2, and that's what got me to top 8. So when I got through day 1 at Worlds, I went 3-0. I was like, I basically already did better than I did last year with my record because I lost like my 3rd round. And once I beat Weedle round 1, I got through day 1 pretty smooth. I knew that I had a pretty good shot at it as long as the next day, I kept that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are both day 2 competitors, and I imagine on that stage, I mean, it's really nerve-wracking, especially because you're so far away from home as well, right? I mean, and it's not that you have all of your friends or family around you the way that you might have at a regional, but you did have your family with you in Japan, right? I was talking with
them. My mom were there.
Yeah, that's really cool. And do you think that also helps support a little bit as well, or did you have like other people? I mean, besides the other NA people there that was supporting you as you were going along?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends in the Pokemon community that, every time you come off stage and stuff, I see my mom and my sister, they're like, "Whoa, you won!" and stuff. And then like everyone else there who's like not currently in a match is like, "Well, you played so great and stuff." Like, even if you lose, they're also like, "You played so great." So, I mean, that part, that's just the community being great. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty important, I think, to have people that are there with you and support you through it because it is pretty stressful, especially like between the days and stuff. To just not get in your head too much, just kind of distance yourself from that. Maybe go get something to eat and just cool off for a bit. It's pretty important to have people that you can trust with that.
I got to ask you about your day before mentality because there was a big get-together of the Go community. And if you're still in the tournament, I mean, what goes through your head? Like, how much do you want to relax and have fun versus how much you want to stay out and enjoy the company of, like, everyone in the community? What is your before-battle regime?
I thought, like between day 2 and day 3, there's a pretty big get-together. I always thought, I wouldn't go to that if I made it to day 3 because like I just wanted to like relax and like actually prepare for the next day. But then somehow I actually got into day 3 and everyone was like, "Oh, great job. I'll see you at the social." And I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm going." It's probably better to do that than just sit in your own head thinking about what you have to do tomorrow. So, I went to that and it was so cool to see everyone there and just meet a whole bunch of players from around the world. I'm not normally like the most like extroverted person in the world, but it's still cool to see everyone and I get to know a lot of people. So I think it was definitely the right choice to go and just relax for a bit between each days. It's Pokemon, right? It's a game. You're supposed to have some fun with it too. So yeah.
Martijn, that question I guess is kind of for you as well. If you were the next day competitor, are you someone who wants to?
I go to bed.
Like stay home and study. Do you go to bed?
Well, maybe not. Day 3 might be different because you're doing one matchup. Personally, in Yokohama, I had terrible connection everywhere, so there was not even a point in practicing in between, like day 1, day 2 for me. So I don't know. I guess I would have been. I definitely would have had different beverages. I would say that, right? But yeah, I'm the same. Rather just relax, stay a little bit fresh for the next day. Usually, like. Day 3 is something that you don't get into a lot, right? That's usually, in this case, for Worlds it was only Grand Finals, and for like EUIC and I think NAIC as well, it's winners, losers, and Grand Finals. So that's 3 people basically in there, and like I like to just talk through the matchups or the strategies that myself or my opponent might do with like my teammates, right? So, yeah, it's a little bit of both. Obviously, when you're at those events, you kind of want to meet with people. It's honestly never enough because there's so many people that you don't have enough time for at sometimes, which is yeah. But no, I'm the same way, and I recognize a lot of things that ItsAXN says as well about the stage, right? I've been streaming for like 2 years, but being on the stage there, your heart rate just goes up when you know you're about to win, that you have the win con in your hands, that you might be able to clutch it. That's just a feeling that you will always keep. And even though I might myself not seem quite nervous, man, when I reach to here, my heart, oh, you'll know I'm nervous, definitely. But that's something that's like myself and ItsAXN probably already kind of can expect. We're the kind of players that have a chance to get pretty far. So that's gonna come. It's gonna come that you get to play on stream, and yeah, it's easier said than done. We just gotta deal with it, right?
Yep.
Let's walk through ItsAXN, your stage from when you played Woodage on, when you know that you're it's only NA left. You've knocked out all the rest of the competitors of the world. And you guys are like pretty much facing off to see who's going to be the world champion. Just kind of walk us through your thought process and kind of how the games went from 3rd place on.
Well, I guess first I should say Rubik's is also NA, so it was a top 3.
That's what I said. Yeah, all 3 left
okay. Yeah.
from that point on were NA.
Yeah, Okay, so there was a stream I was watching. I think it was a Mind Joke. Where they were just joking around in chat, like, oh, I'm fine as long as anyone other than an NA player wins, and oh, anyone else.
How unfortunate for him.
Yeah, so when that happened, I was like, at least we proved them wrong. NA showed up a little bit for once. But no, I think I've said in the past that I think like EU has like the difference between like the best players of NA and the best players of EU isn't like there isn't really a difference there. But EU I think is just like it has a larger pool of those top tier players out there. So it definitely was gratifying to see, like even through all that, 3 NA players were able to like show up to Worlds and take the top 3 slots.
Yeah, because at the beginning of day 2, I think it was 9 NA and 9 EU competitors that were in it. So it was at that point, it was pretty much anyone's game.
Yeah, and I think in like the top 16 or something, it was like there were 4 NAs left, and then like they worked their way basically to the 3 of the 4, making it to top 3. So that was kind of cool to see.
But I mean, you basically said it before. Wadaj was on this hot streak, right? So he won basically like 3 big events in a row, and now you have to play him. Neither one of you have lost at this point. What's going through your head? Are you confident? Are you thinking, he's on this streak? Is it getting in your head at all?
There's a lot of things that went through my head. The first thing that I thought about is I've never lost a rematch at a Play Pokemon tournament. No matter like how the first battle went, if I ever fought that player again, I've won. And that's still the truth to this day, because I beat Wadaj and I beat Rubik's. And another thing I was thinking about before fighting Wadaj was, like, if he beats me and he makes it to the grand finals, like, especially on the winner's side, like, he's probably going to win Worlds. And if he does that, how is anyone else going to ever have a chance at being the best player, like, in the world, the greatest player of all time? I saw it as like a personal mission. I had to stop him before he just like made it so none of the rest of us had a chance. So I was nervous. And the time between when I did my battle against Rubik's Master and then when I had to do a dodge was like 3 hours. I was like just sitting there waiting for them to call me up. Like Wadaj was just across the table from me. We were just like watching the stream the whole time because they wanted to go through all the losers bracket up until like the top 4. And that was a long time just to like think about it. And like for the first hour or 2, I was kind of nervous, but then I was just like, let's just play.
And obviously it went your way. I mean, they were very good close battles, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, at this caliber, I didn't expect anything else.
Yeah.
So now you beat Wadaj, and you are playing Rubik's Master again for the third time, right?
The fourth time I've ever fought him. Twice at Portland, and now twice at Worlds. So.
What were your, I mean, like, I don't want to say or make you sound cocky about it, but, I mean, every time you've played him, you've beat him.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, he's only lost to you pretty much as well. Are you feeling pretty confident going into day 3 that you're going to beat him again?
Nope. If you look at our teams, I think he has a pretty big team comp advantage into me. Like, I'm going to talk about it later on my stream, about my Medicham. It's a Medicham that beats other Medichams, but he doesn't have a Medicham. He had a Deoxys, and that is much more annoying for me to face. And also my team, like I was fine being kind of weak to Altaria, but it was pretty like weak to it. I only had my Alolan Sandslash obviously to cover for it, and he had like Deoxys, Umbreon, and Quagsire that all beat it. So I couldn't really bring my my Sandslash to counter it too much. So I knew if I was going to beat him, I'd basically have to like outplay him. I couldn't just RPS or like get any games like that. At least that's what I thought going into it. But luckily I made a pretty hard read in the decisive match when I won Worlds. But like aside from that, like I knew it was going to be tough. His team was very good into mine, at least in my opinion. And I knew he was a great battler because none of the sets, like I've beat him 3 times, but they've all been super close. The time that I beat him at Worlds before, I barely won that game by making a catch on a Stone Edge and calling a Mud Bomb bait. Like they haven't been close. They haven't been like landslide victories. It was all super close.
Speaking of like good players, was there anyone specific that you saw in the tournament that you were like, I really hope I don't face them?
You know, that player that had 5 Pokemon, like El Shay, I think.
He was pretty good, yeah. I can't say.
You can't make it that far if you're not. And like, I just didn't want to face the guy with 5 Pokemon, because like if you lose to the guy with 5 Pokemon, you just kind of feel bad about that, right? I mean, you just have to.
I don't know anyone in this this podcast that would lose. I mean, how embarrassing would that be, right?
How would you
to lose
to that.
Ooh, that's rough. Oh.
You guys are cool.
He just good. We're cool? Is that what you said? Yeah, I know, we're pretty cool.
His team, with only 5, obviously he had a lot of coverage even without that 6th pick. So
you know what I was thinking? Would he have gotten this far if he did have Umbreon? Because you might run different team comps and the others play different team comps, right?
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, I think only having 5 Pokemon was probably the best decision he ever accidentally made. It's like, obviously things would be different if you had that 6th pick. Maybe he would have gotten a better place than 4th, but getting 4th place at Worlds is like I didn't even imagine I'd make it that far. So, obviously that worked out for him. Only having 4 or 5 Pokemon to get 4th place, like, I don't think that's ever happening again.
Yeah. Well, what would you guys do in that scenario? So you registered something wrong, and your choice is you can either take a round 1 loss and use all 6, or you can do the whole tournament with 5, starting with the Martine. What would you do?
I would play with 5. I think
would you?
Going in with 1 loss already, like just having 1 loss in general is already playing on the line, right? 1 more loss and you're out. I think I would do the same, and I think it's a smart read from him. Because, it's a driver that makes the car work. And, if you're good, maybe you're just fine with 3 Pokemon.
Yeah, but your car is missing a headlight if it's the driver, not the car. So is it the same for you, ItsAXN? Would you also continue to play with 5?
There's a lot that goes into that decision. If it's at Worlds, I think I'd probably just stick with the 5. If it's at, like, a regional, and, like, I see who my opponent is, and I'm, like, I don't know who they are in the slightest, I might take that risk. To be like, maybe I can beat this person, basically make up for my mistake. But, yeah, I mean, I guess it also depends, like, what's that 6th Pokemon that you're missing? Is it something that you kind of need for your team? Or is it something that, like, you'd like to have it, but you can still have coverage for everything without it? But one fun thing is, I only used 5 Pokemon throughout my entire Worlds run. I never brought my Swampert to a single game I played. So, I mean, you can win Worlds with only 5.
Yeah.
Is that because, like, there were so many Altaria?
Yep. I faced 6 out of 8 games, and the 2 that didn't have it had a Chestnut and a Venusaur. And,
yes.
Chestnut.
Yeah. And Chestnut's actually pretty good against my team. I was lucky that he didn't ever bring it against me, which was kind of weird. But I think he was probably just expecting a ton of Noctowl and stuff to, like, answer for that. But yeah, I mean, Swampert wasn't really the pick, obviously, for Worlds. But I think it did help, like, scare away a lot of the Steel types. So it was useful, even though I only used 5 of my 6. So yeah.
I know that there's 2 things I kind of want to bring up, but they're both about your Medicham. The first one is, are you scared of Carbrink's next season being allowed? Like, do you think it's going to stop the Medicham? So that's part 1.
Carbink, not necessarily for Medicham, because, like, you have a lot of neutral play there, I think. Like, you can get one-shot by Moonblast, for sure. But you also are doing a lot of damage to it. It's a pretty neutral matchup, and in the 2 shields, you aren't really doing that bad. But in general, I am kind of scared of Carbink. But it looks like it's going to be kind of RPS. It's going to be like Bastiodon, but with coverage against the fighters. So I expect to see a bit. I don't expect it to be like the new premier pick, though.
And my second question is, just from watching you play Medicham, I don't think I know anyone who plays Medicham better than you. How do you always know if someone is baiting, or like when the good time is to bait? Like, you call the most baits, and get the most shields out of anyone I think I've ever watched play?
I don't know. I don't really have like a system or anything. Like if I did, people would probably know how to counter it. It's just really all on gut feel and stuff. Like, what would I do if I were them? I'd bait, I'd nuke, I'd do this and that, or would I shield this move, or would I not? And I kind of use like that, like thinking about what they're thinking about, or thinking about what I would do in their situation to kind of judge what to do. But a lot of the time, it really is just like a split-second decision. Like, oh, it just feels right to do this, or I got to bait, I gotta call this shield, or call their bait. So it's just something you have to have a feel for, I think.
Fair. All right. So a lot of worlds talk there. Now the next season, Axon. How's that gonna look for you? I think you mentioned somewhere that you want to play outside of NA. Are you gonna show us Europeans how it's done?
I'm still waiting for that announcement for like when and where they're gonna be. I think it's not off the table to do like any of the three. So I just kind of need to see what gets announced and what sounds good to do. Honestly, like if it's in London again for EUIC, it's like I've been to London, but also it's like a lot less expensive to go there than it would be for like somewhere in OCIC or something. So there's a lot of things that I'd have to take into consideration. But I am already planning on Sacramento, which is in October. I have my flights booked and stuff already for that. So I'm going to try to go to a couple of regionals, keep my skills up, and definitely try to at least make a decent attempt at the back-to-back win for Worlds.
Yeah, because next year, it's been announced. It's in Hawaii, which is very cool. Are you already excited for that? Have you ever been there?
I when I was like 10 years younger, my family went on vacation there and stuff. So I've been there. Never under any stress or anything. It's always been like that vacation spot you go to relax. But I think it's still going to be a lot of fun, especially like the days before and after the tournament. You get the time to just actually be on a vacation and stuff. So I think they couldn't have picked a better spot if it was going to be in the U.S. for at least being an interesting place. Because a lot of people I heard from were thinking, it's going to be in the States now. It's been out of there for 2 years. And I was like, I don't want it to be like New York or any of these other places. I've been there before. It's not that interesting. Especially after being in London and then being in Yokohama. It's like, that would just be such a downgrade.
Yeah, and then they're like, Sandusky, Ohio!
Yeah. I would not be excited about that.
Yeah, same.
I'll pretend I know that. I heard Boston or Milwaukee as well. I feel the same way. I would like to have it like combined with a holiday or like visiting an interesting place and worlds with it, right? And what made Yokohama really special, in my opinion, is that Japan just breeds this kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, with all due respect to London, it was nothing compared to how hype it was in Yokohama or anywhere else in Japan. So
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I feel the same. I don't know how Hawaii is in that regard about Pokemon and stuff, but I heard it's pretty cool, pretty tropical there, so pretty interesting. Hey, I heard you were going to look into content creation as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to start streaming. Obviously, my first stream I'm going to do is later today. It's going to be a recap stream of my Worlds run. And after that, though, I'm also planning on, just trying to be a streamer, like you, Martine.
Yo, join the club.
Just play my sets on stream, maybe get sniped a little bit, but show people how it's done. Also, yeah. I think it'd be a wasted opportunity not to, honestly, right now. Like, I've wanted to do streaming and stuff for a while. After NAIC, I tried to get into streaming a little bit, but when it was right before Worlds and stuff, and by the time I got things set up and got the proper equipment and stuff, it's Worlds was coming, and then school hit, and I just didn't really get back into it after that. Mm-hmm. So I think right now is a pretty good time to actually do it and keep doing it.
That's really cool. So for people who are just listening in, it's just probably twitch.tv/ItsAXN.
Yep, that's
Is that
it.
the... All right, so everyone go there real quick. Give them a subscribe.
Yeah, please do. I'd very much appreciate it.
Hey, and also, we very much appreciate having you on this, because you were telling us that this is the first podcast that you've been on, right? So you're making your debut on our channel. We feel very honored to have the world champion on.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Now we are the world champions of podcasts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
that's how this works. Yes.
Or being passed along. We have one more question. It is, again, a two-parter. But it is the staple question that we ask on StadiumCast. And it's going to be interesting because now there's a whole new season starting up. So we actually don't have, World's competitors yet. So bear with us a little bit. Who, in your mind, is a brawler in the PvP community? And this is someone who is good, but maybe not super well known. But you're like, hey, they can definitely be an up-and-comer. This is someone who, keep an eye on. They're going to probably make it pretty far. And then who is a champion? And that is someone who is like pretty well known already in the community. Maybe someone who has competed or won worlds. Although maybe you don't want to call yourself the champion.
I'd say in the brawler role, before Worlds, I think Rubik's Master would have been the perfect fit, but I think people know about him now. So that I don't think I could really put him there. But my good friend Hilda Clash, I think if he starts doing these play Pokemon regionals and trying a little more to put himself out there, I think he could have a pretty good shot at it, because he was on the Elite TMs and they won the Silph Factions World Champions. So I think he's definitely someone to keep an eye out for. Especially if you see him at a regionals, you got to watch out. And then for champions, I think it would be a mistake to say anyone other than Wadaj right now. He's still on a tear. Top 3 at Worlds, that's not a loss. That's just another thing on his resume that you're going to have to watch out for. So I am really excited to see how he does in the next season.
All right, thank you so much, Axon, for your thoughts there. It's kind of disappointing that, again, someone didn't name me, but I'll pass out on the... It's fine for now, I guess.
Have you tried getting good, Martijn?
Yes, I have tried. I'm still trying. Thank you, Axon, for your time. And again, please give Axon a follow. Up and coming streamer. Heard he's quite good at the battles. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And you're already qualified, but good luck in the upcoming season as well.
Thank you.
All right, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.